Tapos, sabi namin, yung passport ng mga delete kasi niya. Meron daw CSO. For 1 week.
We are currently waiting for the closing plenary to be started, and some of the committee have heard that there is a delegation from who wants to share something about its country, a solidarity call from South Korea. And I am pleased from South Korea who told the committee that they want to spare about 5 minutes to say something about some solidarity call. So anyone from South Korea who noticed organizing committee, please feel free to take the stage. Anyone? So maybe the person has not come here. There will be also announcement about OGP marketplace. So as we know, along with the agenda that we sent to you through email, we also notified that there is opportunity to join the marketplace, which will be held tomorrow. And I would like to let everyone know that we all still can register our organization to join them. And my colleague from Indonesia, Kuku, will elaborate further about how to join marketplace. Please Kuku press forward.
Good afternoon, everybody. Hi. 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 It's so pleased to tell you some information that might be our schedule tomorrow. So I would like to give you some short announcement or information or what else you can say. So tomorrow we're going to help a marketplace, which is in a short way, another way, in other words, marketplace is more likely representing what your organization is and what your organization has been doing so far. And we'll be proudly presenting it tomorrow from 9:30 to 12:30 in this room. So this room will be a room and it will be a marketplace tomorrow, starting from 9:30 to 12:30. And unfortunately, the participants is fixed. It's already 18 participants of the marketplace, each from Indonesia or outside of Indonesia. But we're open for anybody to come to the marketplace to maybe I've heard someone from the other organization that hasn't been fixed also had something to present. We will provide another table to put the gimmicks or maybe the reports that the organization have been made so far. So in a short words, I would like to say that come to the marketplace tomorrow, tell the world what you've been doing so far, and thank you very much.
So we do hope more organizations tomorrow. And anyway, as I mentioned before, there is somebody from South Korea who wants to give a short statement about what's happening in his country. And I would call the representative from South Korea. Yes, please. The floor is yours.
So, for your introduction, in South there are so many problems, very another one is Korean Democracy Foundation. Korean government appointed a new chairperson of KDF, but he was not nominated. KDF nominated two persons for the position. However, the government did not appoint one of the both. Instead, the government appointed a very pro-government person. Thus, we need your support. Please say no together to the appointed president of KDF. If you agree with this, then please leave your signature with the name and institution name. Thank you very much.
And maybe another short announcement. We already have the OGP help desk at the first floor if anyone needs any assistance on anything about OGP. It is located right in front of the restaurant at the first floor. And so, ladies and gentlemen, finally we reached the final session of the day. After interesting discussion, exchange of ideas, input, suggestions, and comments, documentations, we have the final conclusions and recommendations. And right now, we want to hear from each representatives, each lead, or they can each rapporteur of each session to tell us what happened in their session and what conclusions has been made in the session. We will proceed forward from the lead or rapporteur from the plenary A.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm not going to report back from the sessions. I basically overview all the process between this civic space, for 2015, and the signal mechanism. We are drafting now the key messages of the every sessions, and I would like to invite rapporteur from session A, the city space, Daniel, to present the key messages or the key issues that have been raised during the discussion in these sessions.
Thank you, Ilham. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This may be a very, very good discussion, very, very productive discussion. And then we come up with only one sentence of conclusion that civil society organization in our workshop agreed to continue advocating OGP in their country. Recognize that in some democratic societies, there is a shrinking process on CSO role in the decision-making process by the government. And a civic space needs a proper and relevant legal framework in the legal framework. So by have this conclusion, we come up with the recommendation first. What's on the government, especially who want to enact the access to information, to call the government to open data from the government as well as private sector, and then give suggestion to the government to provide infrastructure as well as to make sure the accessibility, especially to the vulnerable group, like a person with disability, can access the information better. And then for anti-democratic context, CSO has to claim space for the decision-making process, and then call for the meaningful participation, including to invite journalists, women, youth, and other stakeholders to OGP. I think this this what come up on our workshop. So the fixed formula I will circulate to you through our to Mr. Ilham. I think this is it. There is any comment or suggestion, please? Or if no, I'll pass to the MC to continue.
I think I need to invite third session, internal mechanism. We will report back to the plenary. Yeah, Quina. No? Oh yeah. Okay. For my friend, Kuku, could you please project the result?
Thank you for the opportunity, Mas Ilham. I would like to present the result of the discussion in the group, but firstly, I need to ensure the file already displayed. We discussed about certain social issues, and the first thing I remember about the discussion is we proposed that we need to emphasize the character of equal representative and equal partnership within the civil society. And then the second one, the second point that we discussed quite hard in the group is the issues about life. We understand that at that point we have the potential to overlap with another mechanism, but we already set the design. And this is the final draft that we propose to the steering committee later. We have 3 targets in the point of internal mechanism. The first one country commitments shall be set specific, strong, and enable deeper transparency in national and subnational levels in alignment with the international levels. We have two sub-targets, and then the first one, countries shall set clear outcome indicators agreed by CSO and government for each commitment and shall ensure the sustainability of commitments. And the second one, countries shall consider the varying domestic circumstances and ensure that release of information through modern infrastructure, such as internet or mobile phones, does not left behind the disadvantaged and marginalized people who are not under coverage of such modern infrastructure. And for the second target, we propose OGP country members shall set standards of governance in national level. And we have four sub-targets here. The first one, countries shall create a platform in which there are equal representatives from government and civil society. And the second one, non-involvement of CSO in making of and implementation of country commitments should be considered as violation or to audit or values. And the third one, each OGP country should make clear and explicit mechanism to facilitate civil society consultation in making, implementing, and monitoring the action plan, and together with the civil society, set mechanism to enable equal position in decision making. And the last one, countries should elaborate in its self-assessment the nature of multi-stakeholder consultation as mandated by the requirements. And the third target, membership compliance shall take into account performance on human rights as stipulated in the OGP declaration. We have two proposed sub-targets. The first one, country members shall demonstrate in its assessment report that it has taken sufficient measures to guarantee its citizen rights to exercise their access to information and participation freely, either by effective implementation of access to information laws, such as protecting whistleblowers, as well as ensuring educated response to law or provisions that are essential to violate the access to information of it. Steering committee must take holistic approach on country compliance, taking into account other independent reports on violation of OGP values other than IRM. I think it is our proposal to the steering committee to improve the internal mechanism of our OGP. Thank you.
Is there any comment or suggestions to the outcomes of the session 3? Well, if there is no, I invite the rapporteur from the session 2 to come to this podium. And she will be
Could we have
okay. Declaration.
Because for those who are new, they might not know OGP.
Okay, so it is part of the document as attachment or not. Okay. Sorry, could you have me, Vijay, Vijay? So it could be incorporated into the document, the declarations. In what point? Oh, okay, the OGP declarations. Okay, so we will read it actually, some of the part of that. It's basically the recognitions of the values of the transparency, accountability, participation, and innovations. And then every country will commit to that, should uphold these core values. And even though this is voluntary, it's not like a mandatory UN process, but once you commit and become member, and then you need to work in terms of what the standard or the rules of the yes. Yeah.
Do we have a from the target for to be our, let's say, next target to be included into member? I mean, do we have a specific target in the recommendation that's specific? And
Well,
if we have what country we take?
Yeah. I need to ask around the sessions, is there any particular discussions regarding this issue? I mean, to outreach and to push more particular government to improve the eligibility criteria and then hopefully become the member of the OGP, particularly specific. If there is, and then it will be included directly. But if there is no, or maybe Sugeng could give us about if there is no in particular, which is yeah.
Just want to add some information responding Mas Sugeng. In the third group, we have not discussed about the points and also about the timeline. When participants talk about the timeline, but the discussion not yet it's not about that point. So not yet, Mas Sugeng. But maybe the plenary will have another recommendation.
Well, if Mas Sugeng wanna emphasize this and take it into recommendations, and then we note it, and the working group will order. Okay, thank you. Well, maybe others, any concern or comments regarding the internal mechanism and compliance? Yeah, Mbak Mari.
Okay, sorry.
Regarding the question of the increase, in terms of the target for Asia-Pacific new member of countries to be the member of the government participants, even there, as we know, there is an eligibility criteria on fiscal transparency, freedom of information and civic space, and also the high-level asset explorations, and also citizen engagement in the OGP mechanism. There are four of eligibility criteria, but I think it is also important as civil society we target our country ourselves, because if we think this, the OGP is a platform to improve the governance, to improve the transparency, it would also depend on us if we put the target of our country. For example, for the next, for current condition that Australia and Myanmar have sent a letter to the open government partnership to be the member of OGP, and even they in the process executed in their country, that it's very important to also the public in the seriously of government to be the member of the opportunity for civil society to endorse to their governments, and also to be part of the international and regional community in Asia Pacific to boost the open government partnership as a part of our civic movement in this region. So that's in terms of the target. I also asking all of you, if you want to target your country, maybe Vietnam, maybe Malaysia, maybe other country, it's not really in terms of the eligibility, but also the seriousness of government to improve their governance of this country.
Okay, if we agree, this is more rational to the points. If you all agree with that, and then we will include it into the our recommendations. Yeah, overall recommendations. I think there is no objection regarding this. Okay. Okay. There are still any concern, and Faisal, can you check the other group already prepared? Okay. And who will be presenting?
Something.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay. Do you have already the document already printed? Okay. It's not easy to print it there. But okay, just project into the wall. Okay, who is the rapporteur? Okay, somebody from Cambodia, yeah? Sorry. Yeah. Okay, come here.
Good afternoon. This morning I will close about the 4 to 15 people talking about how we should allocate on budget and why the goal governance should be the standalone goal in the whole 2050. And after the start from discussion, we hear from the participants and we have will communicate and to submit for your further comments and or any aid. So I coming here just would like to share what is our result, and after that we can give us a recommendation and we check it together, and then we can use this document to allocate the OGP. We are in the process that the governance should be a standalone goal in the post-2015 agenda. Government and the standard goals will list to the necessary indicators and touches to measure government bodies in their performance of being efficient, open, transparent, accountable, and effective institutions. Placing government as a cross-cutting theme, they diminish its importance where area standard growth will heighten it as a critical component to sustainable development. This is our proposals on the why the Vision 2015 should be include the good government goal in that environment goal. And our touches in this goal, we have the 3 touches. The first, it is about to ensure the effectiveness of the public institutions. And in the indicators we define illicit of flow, including money and transnational corruption, bribery and evaluation. And the second budget we intend to promote and accountability up to information legislation with the necessary infrastructures to ensure effective implementations of the law. Enable all people, in particular poor and marginalized community, to obtain timely, quality, accessible, reliable, distributed information at all levels. Promote freedom of expression and limit impunity for crimes against journalists and human rights defenders. Ensure public participation and inclusivity. Establish enabling legal and regulatory environments for CSOs which recognize their independence and right to carry out their peaceful work without fear of harassment. Guarantees active and meaningful participation of all people without fear, especially people in poverty and marginalization in the design, implementation, and monitoring of public policies and programs from local to national and global level. Gender equality by increasing the number of women in leadership positions. For these reasons, we recommend the following.
to promote the capacity building and awareness raising of citizens to be engaged in the fulfillment of OGP agenda. OGP steering committee to release a written commitment about governance as a standalone topic in the post-OGP agenda to international organizations such as United Nations and other regional groups. OGP steering committee to strongly support the implementation and monitoring of the governance targets as identified in these documents among the country members. OGP government partners should allocate resources for citizen engagement. I don't know where I expand OGP's coverage in areas Pacific to more countries in the region. Collaborate internally with different sectors and inter-country in promoting the OGP agenda and create a concrete system for citizen government engagement with improved structure, monitoring, communication, etc. This is what we compile from what we heard in this morning discussions. And now we provide floor for people to provide your comments and aid on this post paper.
Is there any particular comments? Because I have one. You guys first. Okay. Well, we see protection to journalists and protection to journalists and to human rights defender. But how about the anti-corruption activists or corruption fighters? Could we live there? Well, okay. From the session, is there any? Yeah. Ian?
I missed what exactly you said, but I think if I understand you correctly, you recommend that the existing members should also talk to out-of-town member countries, as you said. And I think it is very interesting recommendation, and especially coming from Vietnam, where there is still no law on access to information, and I can quote a notice of no law. And so that respect of human rights and activists on anti-corruption. So I think that countries like Vietnam will be very interested and tend to listen more to the counterparts from Asia Pacific. So I think if we can also reflect on this as a recommendation.
Okay, thank you. Additional, and reference to elections as well. And I think we can agree with this session's recommendations, outputs. Yeah. Okay, guys. Thank you very much. Wow, discussions today, and somehow we come up with great results. The working group after this, we still continue to work, find the documents in order to have a good shape and very clearly define what we demand from the open government chairman, co-chairman, and also from the other state of the countries. Okay, thank you very much again, and I give the mic to my colleague.
a bit less ceremonial. Now, we also would like to call the steering committee of OGP from Indonesia, Ms. Mariati Abdullah, and steering committee of OGP from Mexico, Mr. Alejandro Gonzalez, to come forward to endorse. For all OGP members lead of the sessions from session A, B, and C, we also would like to call you to come forward as representatives of CSO. Symbolically give the communique.
I'll show you what we already have here. The warm-up, come here, warm-up for you. Okay, we go begin up. The point is,
A state is established to serve and protect human beings, and so they are happy, prosperous, and full of justice. Unfortunately, political leaders and governments continue fighting power and committing corruption. And so the citizens became impoverished and suffered. The Open Government Partnership OGP was launched to restore the spirit of open and responsive governments. Openness and partnerships are the way to change how power is exercised and to improve people's welfare. 63 countries have answered to the call. 10 OGP members are from Asia Pacific. However, OGP countries' commitment will stay as promised unless guarantee civil rights, freedom of expression, whistleblower protection, press freedom, right to information, etc. Establishes good governance as the goal and indicators of the post-2015 development agenda, governs the OGP as a genuine partnership and inclusive process. These are the 3 demands by the civil society leaders to the OGP Regional Conference 6 to 7 in Bali. Join us and support our cause.
thank you, Rudy. And before I hand the mic to Mariati and Alejandro Gonzalez, I would like to read a brief introduction of our session's results. The CSO de communique as your president. The Open Government Partnership is a new multilateral initiative that aims to secure concrete commitments from governments to promote stability, empower citizens, fight corruption, and harness new technology to strengthen the governance. These commitments respond to the 4 key values of the OGP: transparency, accountability, participation, and innovations. We honor and support the spirit of the OGP and effort to create openness of the government, engendering civil society and legal space to reformers and innovators around the world. And we also acknowledge good governance as part of the development agenda. As countries adopt OGP declaration to join this multilateral initiative, the country leaders should recognize and broaden civic space to support the governance issue in the post-2015 agenda, improving compliance among countries, especially process and governance country level. We would like to call first the OGP chair, the co-chair and leaders of the OGP to endorse the recognition of the freedom of expressions, freedom of information, freedom of association, freedom of media among Pacific countries. Furthermore, this campaign continue. We need them to continue to campaign the civil freedom in each country, providing participations and respect the equality in the public policy and decision making. Second, Asia Pacific CSO demands the OGP leaders to encourage country members to support on governance issues in the post-2015 agenda. Civil society working hand in hand in the collaborations with the government in formulating guidelines, plans, and the implementations, as well as monitoring the result of the OGP. As a movement, we promoting the openness of governance. OGP should play a significant role to call for the good governance in the post-2015 agenda. The third, the OGP leaders and steering committee should set the participation mechanism and decent partnership standard to ensure all the members compliance with the values encouraged by the action plan, the movement in the OGP process. These values, openness, public participations, equality, accountability, all decision making should meet the demand of the civil society. Otherwise, this is slightly need corrections. And as the civil society values, we also demand you all to organize, be organized, and strengthen your representations and your quality in order to make these OGP framework work as we are expecting. Yeah. Sorry, a little bit in the translations. Okay, this is actually the introduction of what we demand, and then the key points already are delivered by the debaters. Okay, and this is that we are going to give you as.
Okay, thank you, Ilham. And thank you for all of you, civil society in Asia Pacific regional countries. And I think this is the very great document that we have been resulted today. And I think it's very strong for me, also for Alejandro, and for all of our civil society steering community to bring this meeting, starting this after school. And I think for my three comments, that personally and as a community of steering community, we strongly agree and good point of the communique, global network, and also the OGP governance. The three things that I wanted to say that in terms of the governance of government policy, we strongly encourage the credibility and the strong governance of OGP to provide the rapid response mechanism in terms of the violation on the OGP value on transparency, accountability, civic participation, and also enabling environment for OGP itself. Enabling environment for OGP is very important in terms of freedom of information, access of information, open data, and also the civic space in each country, even though they are put in the constitution or in the specific law. So the enabling environment is very important. The second thing to enabling improvement and also the impact of open government policy, we need to make sure there are reformer of citizens, and also the reformer from the government side. So through kind of co-creation, OGP as a platform of co-creation between government and civil society, I agree that we need to push more on equal relationships, equal on responsibility as well, and also equal on decision making on OGP. And the second thing that I wanted to say that in terms of the multilateral initiative on transparency, openness, civic participation, and others, global and regional network on freedom of information and openness, we agree that OGP as the multilateral institution give push strong encourage to the post-2015 agenda. We encourage the transparency, accountability, and participation to stand alone as a goal, and so to mainstreaming to other goals of post-2015. And the third one, in terms of the make sure the changing the reformations in each country. Even though you are the member of OGP or not a member of OGP, the civic movement on transfer, we need to make impact of transparency to the citizens. And also in terms of the human rights protections for each citizen, and also the strong government mandate in each country. I think that is the three things that I wanted to say in these moments, and I will bring this document with the attachments, with the detailed one, and you will circulate to the steering committee, all of the steering committee members. That is for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mariati. And actually, thanks to everybody in the organizing committee for actually inviting the party members and the civil society, members of the steering committee. It's really an honor for me to be here, guys, and to have the opportunity to share with you some visions, to have the opportunity to chat with you, the aisles of meetings, and to get to know the private community from civil society that is involved in OGP. It's really been my pleasure. I'm realizing that I am the only one who is between you and the beautiful beaches of Bali. So I'm going to try to keep this very short and nice. First thing, we don't have a really long communique so far, but what I really heard is three clear messages that you are trying to advocate for OGP in our part, our job description for being civil society representatives of OGP within the steering committee is voicing you guys, making sure that your voice is heard, that your voice is heard in all terms, that actually channeled properly within the OGP. And I heard three messages that are really key and really relevant for OGP. And I'm going to briefly acknowledge them, just to be sure that we are all on the same page, and sure that we are taking these messages to the OGP steering committee as well. The first one has to do with a very relevant issue, which is safe civic space. There is no OGP without civil society, and there is no OGP without civic space. This is at the heart of OGP. And if we are aiming to actually sustain OGP in the long run, we really need for this to happen. We really have to take the right measures for this to actually deliver. As Mariati was saying, we are about to discuss and to pass the first policy within OGP regarding the first policy that addresses the issue of what to do when a country sets back the space for civil society to act. That's quite relevant, it is totally necessary, and this is a big step forward that we're trying to take within OGP. This is a conversation that we started I don't remember, but 2 years ago. It is very complex to take issues like this in a governance body where not only civil society is present, but also where the government is present as well. and we're doing our best. And I think this is a crucial issue, and we are not only voicing it, but actually put some specific recommendation and policy to address it. The second one for me is quite an important message. Your second message has to do with how are we doing in terms of countries of OGP to actually comply with the values and principles and rules of the game of OGP. And this is very relevant because we need to have clear rules of the game. Every civil society member of OGP needs to know exactly what are they expected to do, how are they expected to act, and that we need to recognize that we weren't so good in the past, setting these standards, being very clear what are we talking about. For instance, when the article of governance says that a country that is caught acting contrary to OGP process can be actually kicked out of OGP. What does that mean? Well, we need to be very clear about what does path report of OGP is. We didn't know. We didn't have these definitions. And what I heard here is a clear mandate of you guys to us to define very well, very straightforward, what those things are and how and what type of rules, incentives, and sticks and guidance we need to put forward in order for this to happen. And finally, the third message that I heard all over the morning, and I think is quite relevant, is at the end of the day, if OGP doesn't get into and doesn't affect people's lives, then OGP is really not, it doesn't matter. It's not relevant. It's not relevant. And putting this framework of OGP and linking it to the conversation, to the framework of post development goals of the agenda post 2015 is quite relevant because that is the agenda that is aimed to actually reach people's lives. This is the other message that we need, and believe me, we're going to take it into the whole OGP steering committee, and we are going to make sure that it's really and clearly heard. Clear, we need at the end of the day, clear rules, get the basics right, clear messages, clear guidance, clear rules of the game, and at the end of the day, the clarity of if this only matters if it affects positively people's life. Thank you so much, really, for this opportunity and the speech that we're going to do.
Thank you very much for the steering committee for giving this endorsement of the communique. And we're almost reaching the final point of this event. Before we end today's session, we are privileged to have the Civil Society Independent Coordinator to give the closing speech to conclude our meeting today. Mr. Paul Munson, please.
Don't worry, I one speech today is more than enough. When I stood here this morning, I said one thing I hope today is with so many different countries in the room, I have at least the time and the space to hear a lot of interesting ideas and stories. And although it's always too short, I was in the civic space session and I heard a lot of interesting stories, troublesome stories as well. Alejandro and Marianne refer to it clearly. Civic space, the problem with civic space globally in this region is one of the key reasons why OGP matters. And I think today we made a start with discussing it at a regional level. So how do we take this forward? I think three concrete things. One, Mariatti and Alejandro really have to go back to the steering committee tomorrow, this evening and tomorrow, and say this is what we hear from agencies, society, Asia Pacific civil society.
That's one. Two, today is the start for you. You have 3 or more days to go. Tomorrow the marketplace, 2 days afterwards there's the real regional meeting where your government representatives will also be. And I know from OGP meetings, it's the first one for Asia Pacific, that there's one good thing about OGP meetings, is that they're very informal. There is no better place to lobby, to advocate with your government representatives in an OGP meeting. Because they're there, they're lost, they're very happy to have coffee with you and discuss what's happening back home. It's very easy to do that. And the third one was an idea that was discussed over lunch with a couple of people from different countries, which I think is an excellent idea, which is why don't we create a network of civil society organizations in this region and see how civil society can connect and learn from each other, be inspired by each other on an ongoing basis. Why not have the people from Indonesia that are already inside OGP help their colleagues in Cambodia become a member of OGP? And why not have the members from Cambodia that have a lot of experience from their respective work come over here to Indonesia and advise their colleagues in Indonesia to make the most out of the OGP opportunity? So I think those are 3 excellent ideas to take it forward. And that's where I want to leave it for today, except 2 more things. One, don't forget the advice, and I think it was actually an order from Pak Kuturo earlier this morning, you have to go see the beaches of Bali. And second, I really, really want to thank and have your applause for the organizing committees and the founders. I think you can see it's really a big collaborative effort. I mean, look at the size of the banner they needed to do it. So I think this was really a big collaborative effort. And, I wish you good luck. I wish you all the fun and all the inspiration in the coming days around OGP. Thank you.
Finally, we will not be holding you in here longer. The beautiful beaches of Bali. And I would like to finally say that our civil society day today is over. It's finally final. And give applause once again for our efforts today. Before we all leave this room and go to every beautiful place in Bali, I would like to call everyone to stand in front of the huge banner that Paul mentioned, to have a photo session together. And from the organizing committee will help you to manage the position. And please don't leave this room before we have one big photo together. The organizing committee, who is in charge for technical matters, can you please help the people in here? I'm managing their post. Yeah, the photo coordinator, can you please help? Can you please have the technical staff to prepare the venue for us for this photo? Firstly, of course, the chair needs to. And while we are waiting for our photo venue to be ready, I would like to remind you guys that tomorrow we are going to be here again for the OGP Market Day, and there are still opportunities for those who have not registered. As instructed by Kufu, you can register at the front desk. And tomorrow we're going to see you again here at 8:30 for registration. It will be held until midday, the market. And we all once again say thank you very much for all of the participants and also for all of the organizing committee, myself, Petra, Leon, every funders that contributed to this event for Foundation TIFA Partnership Interface. And also here is Transparency International. I am pleased to invite somebody who will coordinate the photo session to take over the microphone. So anybody feel free to sit at the seats that are already prepared, and the rest who just get the seat, you can stand up behind those who are seated. So please, everyone who is still at the left side of this chamber, please proceed in front of the great banner. And the photographer? Is the photographer ready? Alright, we have the photographer ready, so everyone, make sure yourself appear in this photo of the 2014 CSO Bali. So you can improvise. If there is no other spaces for standing up, you can also sit down on the floor. Oh, this is a huge number of people. All right, everyone? Everyone there? Aren't everybody ready with the pose? 1, 2, and 3. Wow. All right. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Okay. Once again, thank you very much for today's session, and don't forget that tomorrow we will still have OGP market. And everybody that is being here today, starting from 8:30 a.m. in the morning and it will be sharp at 9. OGP Marketplace will be starting sharp at 9. You can start registering yourselves at 8:30. And don't forget, for those who have not registered for the OGP Marketplace, you can still have opportunity to register about your organization, to tell everybody about what your organization is doing. And you will have also your opportunity for networking, of course. And tomorrow, of course, we will less satisfaction. And once again, we would like to say thank you very much for today and see you tomorrow. For all of the drafters and facilitators and rapporteurs,